All right, welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast. Hope everyone's doing well, everyone's staying healthy and staying safe. Hope everybody is still staying on the water, staying fishing. As Berkeley says it, we're going to fish through it. So hope everyone's doing okay. We're doing okay over here. Weather is finally getting good. We have a week of 60 and 70 degrees in the sun ahead of us here in New York. So we are all looking very much forward to that. So that's going to be a fun. I think our fish are actually going to be spawning this weekend. I think our smallmouth should be up on beds, so that should be interesting for those who like to bed fish. Get up and get on some dumb old smallmouth on beds. So looking forward to that. But looking forward to today's podcast with Mr. Rob Matsuura. Rob is a very well-known film photographer in the industry for fishing. Done a lot for Scott Martin. Done some stuff with Tyler's Real Fishing. Some FLW. He's all over the map, and he's well known and for good reason. So I'm excited to get him on here today to talk about his roots, his story, how he got to where he is, and what's the plan for him. So hope you guys enjoy that. We'll get to it, but before we do get into today's podcast, I want to say a quick shout out to Douglas Outdoors for sponsoring the Serious Angler podcast. Thank you guys for supporting me and this podcast. It really does mean a lot. One rod that I will be using this coming week, if I go out and I do find smallmouth on beds. Granted, you can probably catch them on anything, but I'm really going to be putting to work the Douglas LRS. It's going to be the spinning. It's going to be the 724XF. And I'm probably just going to end up throwing a Ned ring on that with a multitude of different plastics. Pretty much, those smallmouth, they're pretty dumb, so they'll pretty much bite anything. So, but that's going to be my main rod that I'm going to use, and looking forward to it, and looking forward to this podcast. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get to it. All right, we are recording, Mr. Rob Matsuura.
What's up, man?
How you doing being hunkered down over there in the other side of the country?
It's actually kind of nice. I mean, I've been, for the past 2 years, I've been on the road every spring, and this is where I grew up, fishing, and we have the California Delta, Clear Lake, all these places, and I have not got to fish the spring here in 2 years, so it's fun. This past spring, I got to fish, or the Delta pretty much every day. So
that's awesome. I know we were exchanging messages the other day, and you mentioned you were going to Clear Lake. How was that?
Oh, it was pretty epic. No big ones, but like I probably got 30 bites on a frog or fish on a frog.
You can't beat that.
Yeah. And because it just opened, so Clear Lake was closed for like the last month and a half or so, and they just opened it like a week ago.
It wasn't like bank only or something like that?
No, I think it just closed, period.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like all our lakes were closed, so like they pretty much all of April into like about this past weekend, everywhere was closed. So so everybody's starting to post pictures and stuff because it just opened like last weekend, and they're like, it's so easy. Everybody's catching all these fish because there's no pressure, and I think it's going to be good for our lakes because they got to all spawn out, stuff. The only thing is like the Delta, it was open all spring, so that got a lot of pressure. Like every day during the week, there's like at my little ramp that I would go to, there'd be like 30 boats, parking lots full, when usually on a weekday there'd be nobody there. So, but yeah.
Yeah, my buddy Greg Blanchard out there, I don't know if you know the name, but he fishes the Delta a bunch, and I had seen in his videos, he's like, this is supposed to be a time where everyone's isolated, and then now the parking lots are just jammed full of people just going out and fishing. So
yeah, Greg's cool dude. I fished with him a couple of times actually.
Really? Yeah, he's a man.
We fished kayak tournaments against each other 2 years ago before I started working all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know you got into the kayak stuff. That's pretty sweet.
I did for like 3 tournaments. I had an impulse buy to buy a Hobie like the night before a tournament just to fish it.
Just the night before? Oh my god!
Yeah, I was like, should I do it? Should I do it? Oh, I could just win my money. If I just win the tournament, I'll win it back. So it's all right.
True. There you go. Yeah, if you just win the whole thing, might as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was bummed. Yeah, he was bummed because he was trying to come back to New York. He does his little New York swing for a month or so, and fortunately, he got stuck back in Cal. I don't think he's bummed about it because he's catching giants on the Delta, so he doesn't mind much. That's cool. So before we get too much into the podcast here, for anybody who doesn't know and lives under a rock for the industry, talk a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I'm a videographer for FLW and photographer. I cover events and basically just mainly my videos and stuff is it's for social media, YouTube, just kind of like day 5 of the tournament. So like after the tournament, I go out and shoot. That's one of my bigger projects that I do. After all the tour events, we do a day 5, which is we go out with the winner and record just a show of how they won. Yeah, and I do a lot of photos for all the Toyota, FLW Toyota events, and basically wherever they need me to go. I just live on the road and go shoot around. So
It's pretty
yeah,
epic. Yeah, I enjoyed the day 5 videos with Kyle and with the angler, whomever won, and breaking down what they did. And like as an angler myself, I'm just loving to learn, which is kind of the reason why I created the podcast, because I just love learning. Whether
yeah,
it's like stories of talking about to you yourself about stories that you have, or just beyond anything fishing. I love learning. So the day 5 stuff was awesome to hear the actual anglers who won break down their day by day and
yeah.
hear they whether they smashed them or whether they had adversity and how they overcame that. It was pretty cool. So
Yeah,
that's
and
awesome.
Kyle Wood does a good job of like,
Oh yeah.
being the host. He's a real good talker, so he gets it
Oh
done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. A little bit of entertainment, but also getting back to the point of talking fishing, so which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that too, one thing I like to highlight on this podcast is how you got into fishing. So, what's the story of how you got into fishing? Like, who embraced you into that? Who instilled that passion in you?
I don't really remember. I mean, my dad, when I was born, I mean, actually in my area, I live in Sacramento, and my area it's called the Pocket. It's like a bend in the river of the Sacramento River,
Mm-hmm.
and the delta's only 30 minutes away, like some of the main ramps on the Delta. Clear Lake's 2 hours away. Barry S is an hour. Folsom's 40 minutes. So I got all these like top bass fisheries, like all really close to me. So bass fishing, like just in my area is pretty big. And my group of friends, I grew up, my main group of friends, their parents all had bass boats. So, I mean, I kind of just always been like fishing. That's it. Like bass fishing was it.
Oh,
Being that close to the Delta, all I did was think about going to the Delta, or I have a couple like just lakes right in my area, like biking distance or walking distance. So I'd just go there and I'd walk there and just bank fish every day, kind of, that kind of thing. So, and my dad, when I was little, he had a Ranger. It was I think probably like a 1984 Ranger, like with a 150, like an 18 footer with a 150. So yeah, I
that's
mean
awesome.
it. I always grew up fishing and always liked it. So yeah,
Did you ever get into like the big tournament scene or anything like that, or has it always
yeah.
kind of been just the joy fishing for you?
I got into it. I mean, yeah, when I was little, I'm going to be a pro bass fisherman. That's it. That's all I was thinking about. And then when I got a boat, my uncle gave me a boat, and I started fishing tournaments, and I did uh, maybe 1 or 2 seasons, just pro teams, just hardcore. I did like 3 circuits, and I did pretty well, but it was hard to like you had to follow the circuit for points and stuff, and you go
Yeah.
all over the place. My favorite fishery is the Delta, just by far. It's
Hmm.
probably one of the best fisheries, right? And you like in the springtime, you get 20 to 30 pounds. And then during the tournament season, you got to go to like Lake Oroville, which is like a spotted bass fishery, and like 10 to 12 pounds is good.
Yeah.
So I'd be pre-fishing there in April, right? In springtime when it's like the best fishing on the Delta. And I'd be out there just catching all these spots. And I'd be like, dude, what am I doing? I could be fishing on the Delta, catching 20 pounds of largemouth.
Yeah.
So after that, I kind of got burnt down. It's like, man, I'm just going to fun fish. And that's what I did. And then that was probably in my like right when I got out of high school that I did that kind of stuff. And then when I went to college, I fished college
Hmm.
fishing for like FLW and stuff, and I got to travel and I fished for Sacramento State. And back then, the college fishing is when it was sponsored by National Guard. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever heard of that, but
Yeah.
hold on, sorry about that.
You're good.
Uh, yeah, the National Guard when they sponsored it, it was amazing. It was like I don't think you understand how much money and work FLW put into that. It was great. Like for just the regional championships, they brought out like 50 brand new Rangers, and we got to just run around in brand new Rangers. The champion for just the Western Regional won $50,000, and then once you went to the championship, that was for $100,000.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
it was crazy, and then they paid for a lot of our travel and so it was a blast, and it was a crazy opportunity, and yeah, it's a lot different now that like I think now you got to before they'd provide boats and stuff. Now you bring your own boat, which is
Yeah.
which it should be, but just we got so spoiled back in the day in
Oh,
college fishing. So
well, that's
yeah,
awesome to hear though, because it really like it's very angler focused, right? I mean, paying for travel and stuff. You don't see that now. Now it's up to the colleges and the teams, and
yeah,
not many teams. I just recently posted a college bass fishing panel where I had on a few guys, and they talked about it's up to the club really.
yeah,
And if you go to a big enough school or a school that does either it's a big school or it's a school that doesn't have many sport teams, so they can focus on the fishing aspect, that then they'll receive some financial assistance. But like that was the toughest thing was travel and food and obviously your entry fees and housing, finding a place to stay for the week or so. So
yeah.
that's cool to hear that back then FLW put forth that effort. That's pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
I mean, it was so much like just the sponsorship wise and stuff like that. But I feel like now it's the college fishing high school scene. It's bigger now. Like the support, coming
Yeah.
in. It's just we got lucky in the years that I fished it. Like when I used to fish at the national championship, Jordan Lee was in it. Shea Baker was in it. Jody White, and that's how I met all these guys,
Yeah.
and there was a ton of people, and this was back in 2011, I think, or something. Yeah, so it was a long time ago now so, but
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's crazy to think about. Yeah, it's been like 9 years, and where everybody's at. Like Jordan Lee, he's like one of the best anglers in the world. He won the Bassmasters Classic, and yeah,
That's
but
got to be kind of a cool feeling, be like, yeah, I competed against that guy.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Back then, it. I wish I could go back and do it all over again because whenever I went to the national championship, I sucked. I didn't catch anything, but yeah, wish I could go back.
That's awesome. Now,
Yeah,
so back then, obviously, there's a lot of support for these anglers. Do you think the fact that now it's up to the colleges is because there's so many clubs now competing that it's almost impossible for at these organizations to support each team, or
yeah.
is it just because there's less financial support just from the organization standpoint?
I mean, back then it was mainly because we had that National Guard sponsor.
Mhm.
It was a huge deal, the National Guard thing. Um, I would say now as a college, as a club and stuff, it's probably easier to get sponsorships through, you know, the fishing industry because
Yeah,
college fishing and high school fishing, it's a big deal now.
yeah,
So last year for FLW, we had a series, like a video series where we'd go and follow one of the college teams and just make a series out of it. And it's actually on our FLW YouTube channel. Last year, we followed one of the guys we followed was Tyler Anderson.
yeah, yeah.
We had a whole show on him. It was pretty good. And, when I went to cover these events and I went to them, I was like, and these weren't like the national championship. These are just the regular, just tournaments, the FLW tournaments, like just the qualifying tournaments. And they were huge. Like I went to this one in Texas. I forget what lake it was to cover Tyler. And there's so many boats. I was like, man, this is crazy how many teams, would come out and all these kids had their own boats. And yeah, back when I used to fish, we didn't have all like that many. Like for a Western, just regular tournament, we probably had like 40 boats, or 30 to 40 boats. Now you go out to those and there's probably like close to 200 or 150 boats. It's
That's
pretty,
insane.
yeah, it's insane how many people or younger, college fishing, how big it's grown.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even the high school championship, it was on Pickwick, I think, and that one had, I want to say, some record number of votes. It was huge. If you, I don't remember how many, but maybe like 400 teams or something, something insane. It was ridiculous how many people were in that thing. So
I couldn't imagine just being at the launch. You know, how did they separate that? Did they tell people like, "Hey, you're going to designated launches," or how?
no,
I
it
can
was
imagine it
one.
being the same
It,
one.
maybe it was like 200 or 300 teams, but like I mean, it's a huge event,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that many teams. So it's like, that's two high school students, right? Plus their parents, or each of their parents. That, it's a big thing to come to a city
yeah,
for, a championship like that. So
yeah.
yeah.
That's crazy. I couldn't imagine just being at, like when you're about to blast off, just looking around and just seeing boats
Oh, it was
everywhere.
a fun one. I flew drone on that one. It's actually in. It was, I followed the Brainerd team. So if you go on the FLW channel, it'll be the Brainerd series, and that blast off. It was pretty cool at Pickwick. They have like this big, like almost like this flare thing that it looks like kind of like an Olympic thing where like a flame comes out and they have a
Yeah,
bridge next to it. And I flew the drone right over the bridge, right past the flame thing into blast off. It was a good shot.
that's crazy, dude. I couldn't even imagine. That's nuts. I'm gonna have to go check that out. So which one was it? I'm gonna write it down here.
It's the Brainerd team, that
Maynard.
Brainerd one. Yeah, let's see if I can find it.
I'm gonna have to check that out. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, they're called. So it's called the Rapala Varsity Bass episodes.
Rapala or Sea Bass. All right, I gotta check that out after this. I just want to see that shot. That's
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. It's actually it's on the main. If you just go to the FLW YouTube channel, it's the
Okay.
first. It's our like main video.
Oh,
Like it always has
cover.
just one
The,
video playing. Yeah, it's that
oh,
one. So.
sweet. That's sick. So when did you realize then, like, well, let me ask this. When did you first discover that you had a passion for filming and photography?
Um, let's see. I was always kind of curious about just like video photos and stuff, but I never really like got hardcore into, like, I didn't take any like camera classes or video editing classes or anything like that. It was just kind of through fishing, I guess. Like, back when I started fishing, nobody had like GoPros and ran them all day. Like, if you just got a fish catch on film, like that was just period. Like, if you just got
Yeah,
any kind of catch just on camera, that's like, whoa, that's cool. Uh,
yeah,
and so probably in 2000, probably 10 years ago, my girlfriend at the time, for my birthday or Christmas, she got me a little handy cam with like a flip thing on it. And
yeah.
that I got a couple fish catches. And then the very next year, she got me a GoPro, which was like the GoPro Hero. Not even this one. This is the three. The one before that was
Oh,
like one
damn.
that just said Hero on it. And
That's
I eventually lost that one wakeboarding, but when I got that, I started just having it on record and just kind of, I don't know. I downloaded Final Cut, and then I put it all in there and I just started editing. And once I put it all together, I was like, "Wow, this is cool!" Fish catches and stuff.
yeah,
And this was when there was no fishing videos on YouTube, nothing like at all. Like, and that's when I guess I kind of just, I feel like the fishing game at the time, like, just is, it's way ancient, like behind
yeah,
in video. Uh, so that's how I got ahead. Just, I felt like, because nobody was doing it, and I just had GoPro videos of fish catches and stuff like that, and got to put it
yeah.
together. Yeah.
That's awesome. So when did it kind of click that you're like, okay, I think I can make this into a career?
Uh, I mean, it never really it still hasn't really clicked to me. I mean, I know I do it for a living. It's my
Yeah,
full-time job. I work for FLW, but it's just, um, I don't know if it ever really clicked in my mind that this is what I'm going to do or this is what I'm doing. I think it might be because it doesn't seem like a real job, you know? I feel like a real
Yeah.
job, especially in my area, is you go to an office, you sit there from 9 to 5, and then you get off, you know? My
Yeah.
job right now is, I mean, for pretty much all my life, it's been just, you know, go take some photos of people fishing, like, or
Yeah.
go and, you know, go record and make a video. So I don't even know if it's a job really.
It hasn't really hit in yet. That's
No.
cool. But isn't that a cool feeling though? Like when you're kind of doing it, like, 'cause you really truly enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I still hasn't clicked.
Yeah. Well, I think the fact that it hasn't clicked just kind of goes back to that saying that everybody says. Choose a career that you feel like you don't go to work or something. You don't go to work a day in your life or something like that. I
Yeah,
don't know. I totally butchered that motto, but it's. I think you got the gist of what I'm
I
trying
got
to
it. Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm living it. I feel it.
yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. So that being said, though, is there like an end goal that you're trying to reach? Like, is there like the epitome of what you're trying to do?
I haven't thought that far ahead.
Just kind of living day at a time.
I'm kind of just living it, like, and just kind of cruising right now. Um, so I've, you know, in the past, I just, I didn't think I was gonna get here. You know, back, if you would have asked me 5 to 10 years ago, like when I was fishing college, hey, if I give you, you know, a truck and a boat, if you know, just travel around with a camera and start, you know, covering tournaments, making videos, would you do it? I'd be like, that's the dream job. I wouldn't even think that is a job, you know? So yeah, I don't know. Every year it kind of got bigger in a way, like, you know, out of college, pretty much I just fished every day. Then I started getting into cameras, GoPros and stuff like that. And I got a camera and started recording. And I actually did some work for before FLW. I did a lot of freelance work, and I did it for if you have you heard of Lucky Tackle Box?
Hmm.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of videos for them, for Travis Moran. Have you ever heard of
Yeah.
Travis Moran?
Travis is actually coming on the podcast this week.
All right. Oh, well,
Yeah.
Travis
Perfect
Moran is
time.
like, oh, yeah, we used to do all, I worked with him for many years. Like, all we did was just go and shoot videos. I'd record him. And then somehow I got into FLW and just kept growing. So every year I kind of progressed into something bigger and better. So, yeah,
That's awesome, man.
yeah.
That's sweet. That's cool. So, what did you end up? What did you originally go to college for? Was there a
Oh,
plan that
man.
you diverged from?
I mean, I went to college for my parents or for my mom. You know, I mean, it's just like a thing. You got to go to school, got to.
Yeah.
And then I figured, all right, that was right when college fishing came about, and the
Yeah.
school I went to got a team. So I was like, well, I guess I might as well fish. And then I picked geography.
Okay.
That was my major. I got a bachelor's in geography just because I thought, all right, there's probably not a lot of math. There's probably not a lot of writing, not a lot of English. But no matter what you pick, there's always going to be a lot of writing. Like, I hate school, but I
Yeah.
picked that, and I got pretty lucky that I went to Sacramento State, and the geography department was pretty small, and
Okay.
we had a fishing team, and so that's the main reason I stayed in school and went was just for the fishing team. You know, I got to travel a lot, and then we hosted actually the Western Regional at that school, at our school, and I won it. So, and we had like it was back when it was a huge deal. Like, it was on TV. We had like a huge stage just in our parking lot of the school, and I won it, and I got to be on the website and on the billboard and all that kind of stuff.
Famous.
So yeah, and so our department, the geography department, like, whoa, fishing's that big, whatever, you know, and like the head of our department, you know, they all knew that I really wasn't there for like geography and that I was there for fishing. So they really helped me out and gave me a lot of, yeah, they just helped me out a lot, and they're the main
Yeah.
reason I graduated.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're like the best map reader out there when it comes to the whole topic.
I
No, no.
I wouldn't say all of that. No,
That's
no,
funny.
yeah.
That's cool. But it's still cool in the fact that those events happened and it still led you to what you're doing now. So that's pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah. I mean, the whole probably like the main reason I got my job and how I got in the industry was through those events, through those national championships. Like the national championships, I said like all those guys were in it, like Jordan Lee, Shea Baker, all these guys that are in the industry now, like Jody White, Jesse Schultz. Jody White and Jesse Schultz are the ones that they're probably the main reason why I got my job with FLW, and I met them so many years ago at that national championship. So it was just connections, and I stayed connected throughout the years, and that's how I ended, or I got to where I am. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So looking back on, so how many years is this now that you're with FLW?
I worked freelance for them in 2017. 2017, I think I worked freelance on pretty much every tournament, and then some tournaments I worked freelance for Scott Martin, and then after 1 year of like hardcore freelance, they hired me for a bunch of events. Um, they asked me, "Hey, what are you doing next year? What would it take for to hire you full time, kind of thing?" And that's what I that's how I got into it, and it was 28. It must have been 28. So 2 years now, about 2 years,
Awesome.
year and a half, 2 years, yeah, full time.
So since you started, since even the freelancing of these tournaments, is there a highlight, like something that you covered that sticks out in your mind that happened amongst those tournaments?
Tournament wise coverage. I mean, there's been so many tournaments. I don't think you understand
Maybe
how
like an epic moment or something big that maybe between an angler catching a certain fish or whatever that kind of sticks out in your mind.
Let's see. Last year at Chickamauga, that is a pretty good one. I was covering David Dudley at Chickamauga, first thing in the morning. I'm pretty bad luck at covering tournaments. Usually I don't get the guy that, like, usually Jody White or Kyle Wood, they always get on the guy and he's like on fire catching all these fish, right? But I got David Dudley, got to him around like first thing in the morning, pretty early, and it was a shad spawn. And I was watching him. It was probably the third or final. It was probably the final day. I think it was between him, John Cox. So they were all in the top 10. So, live coverage was on him. TV was on. Um, and all of a sudden I see the shad. They're up shallow and one bus, like on the surface, up in these trees. He throws in there. I think he threw a swim jig way up there, and he hooks in, and it's a big one. And I'm shooting photos, and I got all these good photos. I'm like, oh, this is crazy, and just jumping. And then he gets it in, he holds it up, and I'm taking pictures, and he's all excited. And then he looks at me, he goes, "Hey, Rob, how many pounds do you think that was?" "That's a big one, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's like a 3-pounder." And I knew it was, I thought it was like 5, 6. I think it was a 7-pounder actually. But he did all this on live, and when I said 3-pounder, he looked at me and he was like, "What?" And he threw it in live after he got all excited, and he kept fishing. And this is when he was talking to me, and I told him it was a 3-pounder, and it was he kept looking back. He's like, 3-pounder, like that, right? And then probably like 15 minutes later, I think I kind of got in his head. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I was just messing with him. And he went and he got it. He got his scale. And he weighed it, and he weighed it. It was a 7-pounder, I think. And he looks at me and he goes, 3-pounder, Rob, get out of here. So yeah, that was probably the best, one of the funnest interactions I had, just with the anglers while it was on live. Because like I went back and watched the live, and you could hear him like looking at me, talking to me like, 3-pounder, get out of here. So that was a pretty good one. But
a character.
Yeah, I mean, tournament coverage wise, I don't have as many good stories. Like most of my good stories are memories and stuff. It's more off tournament because I live in my truck full time.
Yeah.
So I travel along, all the tournaments, and then in between tournaments is when you have all the memories, because that's when you go, or like the fun times, off.
Yeah.
Because that's when you get to go fishing. So I live in my truck, and I just travel around. I meet a bunch of people and stay, wherever I go. Like, Chickamauga, I get after the tournament, I usually will stay there for a few days or go wherever the bite is good, or where I think.
Yeah.
So that's when fun times.
Awesome. Do you have like a place in mind that's like your favorite place to go, like lake wise?
New York.
New York. Okay, which
New
part?
York
Which
in the
part?
summer. I'm basically if I could just live out a dream, it would be Florida in the winter, and then head up north in the summer, because
Oh,
New York is pretty epic. I never I always wanted to catch those big smallies. We have them here in California, but they're
mhm.
not as numbers wise. It's not like that. So
Yeah.
up there
Yeah,
in the
I
summer.
recently did a smallmouth panel where I had each region covered: south, south, northeast, Midwest, and west. And Austin Wilson, I'm sure you know, is out west. Is he was the I guess the rep, you should say,
Yeah,
for the west. And that's one thing he mentions. It's nothing like the northeast,
yeah.
which is pretty epic. So it's like the
We
river
have
that.
big ones. We do have big ones, but we don't have those numbers of big ones. We
Okay.
have like really big. Used to have really big smallmouth. Like by far, California. I've been everywhere now. I've been Florida. I've been Tennessee. All these lakes, New York. But California, I think I might be a little biased because I live here, but by far, there's nowhere else year round that
Yeah.
it's as consistent where you catch like go somewhere and catch fish and like big ones.
Oh yeah. No, I would agree. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
everybody like most people will say Alabama or Florida or Texas or something, but like you go to Texas, it's all the same kind of lakes like Sam Rayburn. You go to Florida, they're all kind of like that same shallow stuff, that
Yeah.
like shallow big bass. There's a lot of good fishing, but it's not. And then you go up north, you go to New York and all those. What are you gonna do in December? It freezes.
Yeah.
So
You got your ice fishing, but you can't really bass fish with the ice. It's tough.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why if you could pick one place to just fish year round, it'd be California. It's year round, and
So
we have
diverse.
lakes with giant smallmouth, giant spots, and largemouth all in the same lake. So like,
Yeah,
can't beat it, really.
yeah.
But
No, it's crazy because you have such diversity, like you just mentioned, with different lakes with different species,
yeah,
but also, you have your clear, spotted bass lakes, but then you have like the delta, which is, it seems to be. I mean, obviously, I've never been out there, so I can't vouch, but a dirtier water, but it's like a tidal system.
it's
Where
actually clear. It's pretty
it's
clear.
clear. Is it okay?
It's clear, or like considering, yeah, like compared to every like other rivers, you wouldn't think, yeah, in the wintertime when it rains and you get runoff, it's muddy and stuff, but like
Yeah.
it's pretty clear, yeah. And actually, so the delta spots largemouth and smallmouth.
Really?
Yeah, you have all three in there, and stripers. You got stripers.
I haven't seen that on Greg's channel. He's been going after stripers lately, but I did not realize that there were spots or smallmouth in the delta.
Yeah, I mean it's a big river system. You have to go upriver for like the smallmouth and the spots and stuff, but yeah, they're there. Yeah, that's what makes it so cool. Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah.
That's probably why you see a lot of very, very talented anglers come out of California that do so well
Possibly.
around the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah, I mean because we have everything just in such a short,
Yeah,
area. Yeah. But
yeah,
back to your question, I think it was like where is the best, like or my favorite? New
yeah.
York on the road, New York in the summertime. Oh man, there's nothing like up there. I was looking forward to that all year last year. Like I got a boat and a truck to run, and the whole time, yeah, I went to Florida, but I've been to Florida. I fished that. I've
Yeah.
been to St. Clair, but I never been to Thousand Islands and St. Lawrence River. So I was like, oh, the whole like early spring, January, February, all I could think about was like, yeah, I'm about to go catch a giant smallmouth, clear water. I can't wait. And yeah, that's when I went up there, and then I found out about that. And you said that you weren't sure if it was real, but
Yeah, I feel like
some
a
kind of
dummy being
off-season
from New
thing.
York and I don't even know the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So on the St. Lawrence River, I think it's where Ontario is, like right at the mouth of St. Lawrence. Up is
yeah.
June 15th or something is the first like day for bass. That's what I thought. Or like there's a season.
Yeah,
So
I knew there were certain counties where you could only adhere to bass fishing season when you can keep bass that you can fish for them. You
mhm,
couldn't fish for them out of season. There's
mhm.
like two counties in New York where you can't fish for bass out of season. So that's what I thought the rule was. I did not know you couldn't fish the whole river. So
Oh, I mean,
that's
I'm
crazy.
saying it's for smallmouth, right? Yeah. You
Yeah,
could
no, yeah.
fish, but you can't catch
Just
smallmouth
not for
or fish for smallmouth.
yes,
I
yes. You
think.
can't
I don't know.
target bass.
Yeah.
I
So
I
yeah,
don't know. I have no idea because I haven't seen anyone. going out down the river. So
Yeah.
I've seen on social media because I have friends that are up there and they don't go out. So I feel like an idiot. I mean, granted I don't fish up there, but I should. That's the first thing I'm gonna do when we get out of here. I'm gonna text them and be like, "Are you not allowed to fish the river yet?"
I,
Because I
I
feel like an idiot. I've lived here my whole life and I don't even know that.
I mean, I hope that it's true, but I mean, last year I went up there, I think June. I left from Maryland because I had to cover the All American on the Potomac River.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as that was over, I had like a month off or like 3 weeks off. And I was just going straight north because the next event was Champlain. And
Yeah.
so then I heard about that off limits thing, and I was like, oh shoot, what do I do? I was already heading on the road, and that up there is actually the only area or place where I don't know anybody. so, so like pretty much everywhere I go, I know somebody within a couple hours that if I needed to, I could crash at their house or power up, you know. But up there, I had no idea. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know, where I was going. Um, so this was at like 6 o'clock. I just started driving north from Maryland, and I got tired and I stopped at one of the Finger Lakes. I think I stopped in Auburn, New York,
Yeah.
um, in a parking lot. And I usually go to like hotel parking lots to sleep because I usually Holiday Inn Express parking lots. They usually have power outlets, so I could charge my boat and like my laptop or whatever. And I
Yeah.
found this one, and it was a big old parking lot in the back. And I parked, and I had outlets and everything. And I parked. It was 11:30. I was so tired. I covered an event for like 2 weeks, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to sleep. And I woke up, and throughout the night, I kind of heard stuff like cars going by like a lot, throughout the night. And when I woke up and it was sunny, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I looked out my window. I sleep in the back seat of my Tundra. And I looked out my window and I see a tower. And then I noticed there's barbed wire around the tower. And then I was like, and I looked closer and I was like, oh, that's a prison.
Oh no.
so, so I slept in a prison parking lot that first night. And I was like, whoa. Well, and I looked out the other window and there was a huge old big rig next to me, like parked, and they weren't there before. And I was like, what the heck? And then I noticed another big rig, but they're racing big rigs.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was like, well, this must be a legit stop, like, because there's all these. It was actually I forget the guy's name. He's a famous NASCAR racer, and he
Okay.
was parked in that parking lot. I don't know. How far is Auburn from you?
Auburn, so it's like 40 minutes, but Watkins Glen, where they race, is like 40 minutes south of there. So that's probably what they were doing.
Yeah, yeah. So then I talked to one of the guys, one of the mechanics there, and he was like, "Yeah, this is like a known spot. Like we always stop here and get, just park overnight." I was like, "Oh, all right. You're not worried about the
Feel
jail
better.
and stuff or whatever?" And he was like, "Nah, it's cool." So yeah, I kind of so that day I went to Skinny Atlas and fished, and I literally like that was one of the craziest lakes I've. It's so clear. Have you ever
Yeah.
fished Skinny Atlas?
I've actually never fished Skinny Atlas. So
Um,
the big lakes that I've fished are Cayuga, Canisius, Keuka, and then there's obviously like Lake Erie, Ontario, and then I have fished Oneida a couple times, but I'm gonna be fishing Oneida pretty heavy for the Bass Nation Kayak Series event in September. But
yes, Skinny
Skinny Atlas,
Atlas.
I've never been. So
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. I fell in love with that lake like that day, and I was like, man. So literally for 2 weeks or until I went to the St. Lawrence, I slept in that prison parking lot like every day.
that's crazy. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I'd be waking up every 30 minutes just looking around like. I don't. I get eerie trying to sleep in when I sleep in my truck. Like I've kind of done it a few times, and I just like when I'm trying to go to bed and I hear noises, I just like was looking around and
Yeah, I mean, at first, like after I've been sleeping, like I've been home for like a month or 2 months now. Like when I hit the road and go and sleep in a like that first night, it's kind of like, oh man, or like the first couple of nights you go to a spot, it's a little uncomfortable. But then once you sleep for after the first or second night, I sleep right through. I'm pretty comfortable.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good to hear. You get a little bit comfortable with it. I plan on doing that a bunch, hopefully. So we'll see how that goes. But
I'm
that's
pretty
pretty
short
sweet.
too. So like I mean, my back seat, my head is right at the top of the thing. I lay straight across, and I'm pretty comfy.
Yeah, I say I'd rather just find like a campground, just tent it up. You know what I mean?
It costs money. I'm cheap.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. You can get connections though. You just you sneak in. No, I was kidding. That's funny. Well, so when you come up this way if you plan to, if you're able to come up to the Northeast, is it the river still the same plan, or are you trying to try out some new bodies of water, or what?
The river is the same plan. So last year, so after that jail incident or where I slept at the jail, uh, Tyler Anderson, Tyler's Will Fishing, he was on his way up and he stopped in with me and he parked in that parking lot. We slept there for the night and then like he had his boat and he was coming up there for a college event.
Yep.
We fished Skaneateles for the day. And then the next day we left and went up to the St. Lawrence River because it's June 15th and it was open. And we fished, I forget, Alexandria Bay around there on the
Yep.
Thousand Islands. And actually, I met a friend there in the parking lot or I met a person there that was doing the boat checks. And she said that she had I was like, oh, I talked to everybody that, like, they check your boat and stuff. I'm usually pretty friendly. And uh, I was like, oh, do you live around here? And she was like, yeah, I live on an island down the river. And when she said island, I was like, what? I was like, do you have a dock? And she's like, yeah, I that's where I parked my boat, And then I was like, really? Does it have power? Because one of the main things, like the hardest thing living on the road, uh, is you got to charge your boat. You need trolling
Yeah.
motor power, and
Yeah.
so I'm always looking for power. And she was like, "Yeah, I got power. I have an outlet on the dock." And I was like, "Can I camp out on the dock?" And so after that, we exchanged numbers, and I stayed on an island on on the St. Lawrence River all summer long.
That's crazy.
It was epic.
That's
Yeah.
sweet, dude. Oh
So like
wow.
right off the dock, I just literally like I park my boat there and I just go fishing every day. Yeah.
That is sick.
And that's where so I you said earlier you saw the Nowak video, the Benjamin
Yep.
Nowak videos. That's where it was, and that's where I stayed, just right there
That's
for like
awesome.
all summer. It was the most insane fishing, smallmouth fishing, and by the way, they have largemouth there.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if I got a little bored of smallmouth or got a little tough, I'd just go in the back of some reeds and throw a frog, punch, and you catch some nice largemouth.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching when the elites went up there and Ivory guys bringing in 20 to 25 pounds of smallmouth, and then Hunter Shryack comes in with 25 pounds of freaking largemouth, and everyone's just like, which body of where did you launch? Like, where did you go? Like, did
Yeah.
you go to the right body of water? Like,
Oh
everyone's so
yeah.
shocked that there's
I
largemouth.
forgot about that elite tournament. So that elite tournament, I was on an island living in this house, right?
Yeah.
And every morning I would hear Chris Zaldane drive by because he was going to the mouth of the Ontario or way down there, and I could hear him go down. Because there's not very many. It's surprising there's not that many bass boats that fish. Like it's not packed. You would think it'd be
Yeah.
insane because of how good it is, but there's
Yeah.
not. So I knew like I could hear him flying down at like 7:30, 8 o'clock and I'd watch it on live. I was like, he's right there. Like I could hear him go by. So it was pretty
That's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, man, I'll tell you what though, if you come up to New York and you want to get on some smallmouth, I know you like the river, but you really got to try Lake Erie.
Like
Really
yeah,
got to give it a shot. Yeah.
right on. I'll probably do. I drive by there like so after the St. Lawrence River, I had to go to Minnesota. So I literally did the Great Lakes. I drove by, and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So I should probably stop at that one, Lake Erie. Is that
Yeah,
near St.
it's
Clair?
just
Is St. Clair just north of Erie?
so St. Clair is, I think so it's west. I think it's directly west.
Yeah, I think because we go
You're a
to
geography major. You should be able to tell me.
yeah. Wait, so you're saying like the east side of Erie or the west
I'm
side?
saying the Buffalo side.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
because
can launch out on Safe Harbor.
we're our second event of the summer is on the Detroit River, and I think
Yep.
the guys could go into Erie.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, but that's on the west side. So I'll be
I don't
on
know how
Erie.
West side fishes, but yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be pretty good. It'd be cool. But I know, just speaking from experience and from I have a lot of friends in Buffalo that fish Erie a bunch, and they've been just whacking 5, 6s, up to 7s, just
Good.
like nobody's business.
And they
So
fight
it's
so hard, and it's so much
oh
fun
my
on the
gosh,
spinning rod.
yeah. And it's depending on if you fish out of the harbor and then like the breakwalls out there, it's pretty similar, I would say, to St. Lawrence with the current because it's feeding into the Niagara.
Yeah,
So it's when you get those fish into the breakwalls that are on the current breaks, it's almost the exact same thing. And the fish are just big footballs that pull like nobody's business.
yeah. I mean, I will say those smallmouth up there are like on Thousand Islands. Like those are northern small. Like they're shaped like this, like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
like
they're just
footballs,
balloons.
literally.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
insane. Yeah.
That was one thing we brought up when I did a smallmouth panel. Is the question was, and I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think that there's two strands of smallmouth like there are largemouth? That was one thing we brought up. Is we're gonna try to get a biologist in on it too, because if you look at like a smallmouth out of Pickwick versus a smallmouth, say out of the river, entirely different, and they grow so much longer.
Yeah, I mean they're different. They're
Yeah.
definitely different. I don't know if they could be different species, but that you could tell, like, for example, one of the most known things I think, or is a Bullard's Bar spotted bass. Have you ever heard of Bullard's Bar?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where like the record is, and like where all those huge Cody Meyer catches all those huge spotted bass. If you see a picture of one of those spotted bass, you know it's from Bullard's Bar. Like they're just shaped so ridiculous. You think they're like full of. It looks like somebody just took a balloon, like a pump, and just pumped them up. Like it's they're huge, like, and they're so fat, they're big, and the shape of them is just different. Right? That's the
Yeah.
same thing as like Thousand Islands. They're fat, and then I caught some in I want to say in Huron. I caught some in Huron. I went with Benjamin one time on Huron, and they were skinnier and they're dark, like
Yeah.
super dark. So yeah, I mean you could tell which ones. I don't know if you could how to consider or tell that they're different strands or species, but they are very different, and you could tell that like, hey, that one's from Thousand Islands. Hey, that's a spotted bass from Bullard's Bar. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing we were talking about is getting a biologist in on it and seeing if that's truly the case because it'd be kind of curious to see if it were if it were or weren't. So be interesting stuff. But so now that you've been in a couple of years with FLW, and I know you said you're going day by day, but is there any future goal you have with FLW? Any maybe not like position wise, but like maybe something you want to accomplish within FLW as a film photographer?
I mean, not as a film photographer, like, yeah, day by day, like, I don't really, I'm just living every day, like, having a blast, getting a fish, I have a boat, like, getting a boat and a truck to use, on my free time, basically just fishing. I just want to keep fishing for fun.
Yeah.
Like, I used to like tournaments, and one of my main goals was to win a pro-am or like a FLW event, and that's still me. Maybe that's one of my goals is just to win a pro-am tournament as a pro, like a FLW Toyota Series, whether it be one of those or we have a Wild West pro-am tournament. Win one of those as a pro. That might be a goal. The whole video and photo thing. I like it, and it's my job. I enjoy it, but I mean, the main reason I do it is for fishing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I totally understand that.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not like a. What's Brandon Polonek's guy's name?
Oh,
I
Kyle
feel
Vandever.
Kyle
Yeah.
Vander. We're opposite. So I do it. I was a fisherman first, then got into film. He's filming,
Then got
and
it.
maybe he likes fishing, maybe he doesn't. Like one of my good buddies, Brandon.
Yep.
Brandon, he was a filmer for Scott Martin, or was. He was a filmer. He went to school for it, and then now he kind of likes fishing. So I'm like the opposite.
Yeah. No, I hear that. Yeah, I had Kyle on as well, and I had on McCoy who just took over for Brandon.
Yeah, I never got to meet McCoy, but yeah, he seems cool.
Seems like a good kid.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's cool. But it's cool to see different people's routes and how they get into the industry. And
yeah,
you look at fishing and you look at the industry itself and you think it's either people that sell stuff or there's people that fish. But when you look at the big picture and you dwell into it, there's so many different avenues that you can make it into the industry now, which is
Especially,
pretty
yeah,
cool.
with social media, YouTube,
Exactly.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's grown, and there's a lot more opportunities. Yeah,
Yeah, you look at like I don't know if you know the Lyons brothers, Tanner and Travis Lyons.
I know Tanner. We travel a lot, or because he works FLW events with
Yeah,
Luke Duncan
John
and
Hunter
stuff.
and
Yeah,
Luke. Yeah,
talk to him a lot. Yeah, I used to.
yeah. So like they got a cool gig where they work specifically for anglers, and maybe not like how you work for an organization, but you also do freelance stuff. They specifically just take projects with anglers. Like it's so cool to see people kind of get creative and innovative with how you can make a career in the industry.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. You think like everything's complete until somebody else does something different.
We're
It's pretty
definitely all connected too. Like
exactly.
I have Tanner's number in my phone. You know, I've worked with him or hung out with him at all the events. We hung out in Minnesota one time when he went to Minnesota. Um, Brandon's like one of my best friends on tour, or not anymore because he quit. But you know, we're good friends. Like I talk to Brandon all the time. So
Yeah,
yeah, a lot of the guys we're all connected and we talk. So yeah.
that's awesome. Cool, man. Well, we're gonna move this along and head to the fun question segment. And I just got off a podcast recently where I was like, I need to figure out a name for this, what I call the fun question segment, because it makes the rest of the podcast sound like it's not fun. So I'm gonna call it my interrogation. Is what I'm gonna call it from now on.
Oh
So
man.
there's two questions. There's two questions I'd like to ask before we do. Where can people find you on social media and keep up with you?
Uh, Social media, it's my Instagram. I don't really post that much, but sometimes I post stories. But yeah, it's Rob Matsuura. So that's my Instagram. Kind of have a YouTube channel, but I don't really post on that either. but, so yeah,
So if you want to keep up with the distant Rob, I'll post the links down below.
yeah.
See what Rob's doing every month, every now and then.
Or I mean FLW.com and FLW, our YouTube channel. I mean a lot of our little stuff or video stuff, anything like that, it'll be on there. That's what I do.
Awesome. Yeah, all of that, even the FLW, I'll link down below for everybody. But now is to the interrogation. So I have two questions for you. The first one, either you have the answers right away or you get pretty stumped. But I love it because it's a fun question.
All right.
So if you could invite any three people to dinner to sit down and pick their brain, who would you invite and why?
Uh,
You're a little busy.
huh. I don't know. To dinner, anywhere. Like we're just out to dinner.
It could be just any. It could be just sit down, have a beer and a burger. But three people that you'd want to pick their brain, but they don't have to be fishing related. It could be whomever.
I don't know. I'm not much of a talker. Would be. I mean, probably just some of my friends on tour. like, let's see, John Cox, who's one of
Okay.
my by far one of my closest out of all the tour anglers that I've met. We talk a lot, like almost daily. I text him pictures of my fish or whatever. When I'm in Florida, I basically live at his house. so I'd probably take him to dinner. And Brandon, him, and Brandon it would be a fun time. we just get some beers.
I
So
like that.
yeah, Brandon and John Cox. I don't know if there's anybody else on tour that I would ask or anybody that I could think of, but yeah, Brandon and John Cox.
Not like a childhood hero or anybody you looked up to.
I mean, I'm always on the road. I'm never get to bring or see my family. Like I don't come home. Like last year, I was home for
Yeah.
like 3 weeks. May I bring my mom?
Okay.
I'd
I like
have
that.
dinner with my mom, maybe. Yeah.
Cool. That's crazy. Yeah, life of they talk about life as an angler, but people kind of I think neglect the people who work behind the scenes too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm in on the road pretty much the whole year from January 1st on. So
Isn't it crazy that all of this, like this thing as an entirety, just comes back to this 4 pound fish that people
yeah,
love to catch? Isn't it crazy?
yeah, yeah,
How nuts is that? Look,
yeah.
so I have another question before I get to the question that we'll end the podcast with is because you're on the road, it sounds like majority of the year.
Yeah.
Are you a music guy or are you a podcast guy?
I'm a
Or
music
a
guy
little mix
or
of both.
nothing. I kind of
Nothing?
tell you the truth, or like I listen to music, but like I kind of just zone out. Or you know what I do is I call everybody. Call Brandon. I call John. Like,
Just talk
you know,
for hours.
talk. I mean, we talk for probably a good 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah, like each person I'll call. Like, talk fishing. I call Benjamin sometimes. Call Mikey Balls.
There you
Uh,
go.
yeah, or wherever I'm going. I usually know an angler around that area. I call them. I guess I'm a talker. I'm not, or a zoner outer. Like, so if I'm
So,
if I'm just driving after I talk to everybody, I'm pretty much zoned out just on the road. And I'll just think about it and be like, whoa, dang, I just drove 5 hours.
I
It's,
wish I could do that. Oh my gosh, I've had to like have 10 podcasts queued up for a long drive just so I can distract myself.
I've tried some podcasts. It's hard to listen. I'm not a listener. I'm more of a visual guy. Like I take
Yeah,
videos and photos. So, it's not listening's hard for me. Like class back in the day in college, that was not my thing.
I hear that. Yeah, I don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
It's just it's one thing. I guess it's not for everybody, but I like it because for the fact that if I'm on a long road trip, I can still be, when I'm not on the water, chances are I'm either working and fishing or on my phone watching YouTube or reading articles about fishing. So like when I'm driving and I'm listening to music, I'd be like, all right, I'm missing a podcast where I could be learning something about fishing.
I
So
wish.
I have like Bass Talk Live or something on where they're talking to an angler, and naturally they're doing what I'm doing. They're talking about stories or talking about the angler himself, but like they'll get like 5-10 minute segments where they talk about like how they rig like swim baits uniquely that anybody else does, and that's like the part I get excited for. Just doing something that not many other people do, which is pretty cool. But I was curious because you travel so much. That was one of my curious questions: is if you
It's a
do
good.
like if you're a Joe Rogan guy or something like that.
I have listened to some Joe Rogan, but I yeah, like the Elon Musk one. I guess when I
Yeah,
hit the road again, I'll probably listen to some podcasts.
yeah.
So
Were you a fan of the Elon Musk one or no?
I was. That was pretty. It's pretty funny. Actually, I
Yeah,
liked watching it though. The
yeah,
first one, like
yeah,
just seeing Elon Musk talk, like you see his eyes and they just go. When Joe would ask him a question, it's like he's a computer.
yeah.
It
Right.
was kind of weird. Yeah.
I remember finishing that podcast and I had listened to it with my dad, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't understand anything that guy just said, but that was the most coolest thing ever.
Right. It was funny. Yeah, I was laughing at some
Yeah,
of the stuff too.
yeah,
So
100%. So, last question for you. Super simple, straight to the point. Just favorite fishing memory.
favorite fishing. Oh man, I don't know. There's so many.
All right,
All I
first
do
thing that
is
comes to mind.
fish. Like, let's see. Well, there was this. I'll pick my biggest weight in a boat, which was like 44 pounds or something like that. It was an insane day on the Delta, and I didn't wake up for it. I didn't even want to go. I slept in, and my uncle, who I fished with back home, like pretty much usually every time, like back home, all I did was fish with my uncle on the Delta, and he was taking my dad fishing, and I was like, "Oh, you guys could go. 3 people in a boat. That's no fun. Whatever. And, get my dad on some fish because my dad doesn't get to fish that often. He works a lot." And so they went out, and my uncle's texting me pictures, and he has like a 7 pounder. He's like, "Oh, it's on fire." Da, da, da. And then my dad catches his personal best, which
That's
before this, he's only caught like a 5 pounder, so he got like a 6, right? And I was like, "Oh, nice! It must be on fire if my dad's catching them." so,
awesome.
so I called my uncle, and it's like, "Is it real? It's really that good?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then I was thinking about, I was like, "Yeah, my dad's catching them." So I
That's
drove
funny.
out there. I got out there at like 11 o'clock. And after that, literally every spot we went to, we caught one. Like that was like 6 or 7 pounds. Like the very first spot, I got like a 7. Um, and so literally, yeah, every spot, one of us would catch a big one. And that happened for the rest of the day. And my uncle caught like a 9. And so at about 5 o'clock, in the evening, we were like, we were catching 5 pounders like it was nothing. We were just throwing them back because we knew like that's not like
Yeah.
for our 5 fish limit, we literally needed like a 9 to 10 pounder to upgrade. So I was like, man, like yeah, it was a pretty amazing day that day. And actually, so we took a photo, and I was holding think I was holding 4 that were like 7 pounds each, maybe, or 2 that were 7 pounds. My uncle was holding a 9. My dad was holding a 7. These were all like high 7s, so like 7 pounds 50. They were like 8-pounders basically, and
Yeah.
the 9-pounder was like a 9-pound 15-ouncer. So it was all right there. And that
Yeah.
photo I have on my Instagram, and yeah, it was an amazing day. Actually, Wired to Fish used that photo for like to put the Delta. They have a rankings for the like for all the lakes in the U.S.
Mm.
I think the Delta got like third or something, and that was the photo for it. So yeah,
That's awesome.
it was a fun tournament. And then the next day, it was a fun day. And the next day, I fished a tournament and I had 31 pounds, and that felt like nothing. I was like, man, this is tough. Like, and man, we're not gonna win the tournament. Like, dang, I hope we even cash, you know? And what do you know? We won.
That's sick.
Yeah.
We're not even gonna cash 31 pounds. Yeah, whatever.
Well, it didn't feel like 31 pounds. Before we had so much weight. I was like, man, this is tough. Like, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was
Isn't
probably
that crazy?
my best fishing memories. Yeah.
Yeah, then there's so many days you're wishing for that 31 pounds. Like,
There's so many days where I'm just wishing for one 7-pounder.
yeah, right? That's
Yeah.
crazy. Was it like a pre-spawn bite or was it like a
It was,
pre?
it was, I think it was April 10th or 11th. Yeah, it's pre-spawn.
So they're moving up heavy shallow or what?
Yeah, in the Delta in April, March, April, and if you if you're out here anytime in spring, if it's like gonna rain, like right before the rain or in the nastiest weather, you got to go fishing. Springtime, Delta, rain, nasty weather, it just turns them on. It's insane. Yeah.
Weird. I like that though. I found that trend a little bit in New York as well. Like an overcast with a little bit of rain. It
Oh,
seems that that's when the big green ones come out.
yeah. It's insane. It's automatic, like for sure. The weird thing is like I feel like here it's like a for sure kind of thing, but like in Florida, it rains, and I'm like I feel it, like because everything in Florida looks like the Delta, like the tules or the reeds that you guys call them,
Yeah.
it looks like the Delta, and then I see this rain or overcast coming, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna stroke them, but it's not the same in Florida.
Yeah. That's weird. Yeah, I don't understand Florida fish. I don't understand that Florida strain just
Yeah.
yet. But I've never fished south of New York. So it's I went to the classic and I stopped at Watts Bar and Chick. I fished Chick for 15 minutes from the bank until I had a boat pull up on me and cast at me from 20 yards away. And I was just like, I'm not getting involved with this. So I left.
Yeah,
And Watts Bar, I
fishing
caught
pressure
like,
is different down there.
yeah, yeah, I caught like 20 drum on a jerkbait at Watts Bar. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Maybe it's just not destined to be. I was like, all right, okay, I'll keep heading back north.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm down south next year in Florida, come on down. I'll take you fishing.
Heck yeah, yeah. I gotta reach out to Mikey, and we're supposed to link up at some point. But and Mikey was one of my first podcasts for the show, so
Mikey Balls?
yeah,
Mikey Balls and I are pretty like I lived with him for like 2 months in last year.
that's
he's
all.
so he's my Alabama home.
I think that's one of the longest podcasts I've had on the show because that man can just talk forever.
Oh, but he
I love
knows his knowledge is
oh,
beyond. Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. He has so many thoughts and ideas. It goes on.
Yeah, he would be my one of he would be one of my three for if anyone asked me like the dinner question. Mikey would be one of them just because I feel like I could pick his brain for years on just bass behavior and
Yeah,
different like just anything.
yeah.
Like help me set up my Lowrance a little bit better or
Oh,
something.
his electronics. Oh, he is on point with his Lowrance.
Yeah,
It's
dialed.
amazing. Yeah. So, and whenever I'm in Alabama, I go to his house. I stay there. I have my own room at his house.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I just want to say thank you and for taking the time out to hop on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. And
Yeah.
keep on doing the good work you've been doing. I'm looking forward to the tournaments getting back and everyone getting back to work. It's gonna be nice to see some tournaments.
For sure. I'll probably see you in a couple weeks or a few weeks, maybe, or pretty soon. I'm gonna head up there for sure.
Yeah, give me a ring, dude. There's a bunch of different honey holes around here if you want to catch some green and brown. I'm always game.
Right on.
All right, man. Well, take care and thank you again for hopping on the pod.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right. Have a good night. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that podcast there with Rob. It was a blast to talk to him about a bunch of different things that he experienced growing up in fishing and how he got from where he started to where he is now with FLW. Pretty much living the dream, like he said, day by day, doing what he does and being able to travel and fish throughout the year. It's definitely a cool gig, and like he said, he's living his dream, and it hasn't clicked with him, what he's doing yet. It's not a job to him. It's a dream. So it's pretty awesome. I hope one day I can find something like that myself. So hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. Make sure to go down and follow Rob on his social medias and follow along with what he does and follow along with FLW. Rob's a pretty important factor over there for us fans and each party really to enjoy FLW, enjoy the tournament fishing and fishing in general, just to see what these anglers can do. It's pretty impressive, and Rob works pretty hard at making it look incredible. So make sure to follow him, and if you're not already, subscribe to the Lightbird Outdoors YouTube channel. If you don't want to watch these podcasts, you can listen to them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Anchor app, Angler app, pretty much anything out there you can find the Serious Angler podcast. So thank you guys for watching and for listening, and we'll see you next time.